All right, we're at 10:03, so I'm going to do a final housekeeping check and we're going to get started. I don't want to eat into any of our presenters' times. We have two exciting presentations today. So as a last overview of our housekeeping, welcome. Please do introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're coming from, what you're interested in, what you're excited about, whatever you feel comfortable sharing. Please do make use of the closed captioning if it would be supportive to you. And please do refer to our chat window. You'll see that some folks are dropping in their introductions, telling us a little bit about themselves. It's also where the Open Library team will be sharing links if there is any to be shared. And and it's also a place for you to share your questions. We have planned to have time at the end of each session for you to share your questions more directly. But you might see that the presenter teams are already in the chat answering you directly as well. So we just had some folks join us, but we're going to get started now so that we don't eat into any more time. So to get started for this morning's session, I wanted to invite everyone to take a moment to reflect on the land that they are situated in. So eCampus Ontario's offices are located in downtown Toronto, which are located on the traditional territories of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Chippewa, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. And it's now home to many diverse First Nations peoples, including the Inuit and Métis peoples. I join you today from these same territories, and I'm really grateful. And I want to take a moment right now to recognize the legacy of all past, present, and future generations of First peoples of this land. We're all convening from different locations since we're on a virtual event. This would be a great moment, if you're comfortable, to share with us your own land acknowledgements. So we all take a moment to reflect upon the land that we are on. And you will probably have already seen our wonderful reference librarian, Leo, sharing a link if you would like to take a moment to look at your own land and areas that you are located in. Thanks, folks, for being so active in the chat. Really appreciate that. And so let's get started on today's session. So this is now day 2 of the VLS Open House hosted by eCampus Ontario's Open Library. The VLS collection, as well as this event, is made possible by the Ontario Ministry of Colleges, Universities, and their historic investment in the virtual learning strategy. The VLS, the virtual learning strategy, drives growth and advancement in virtual learning across the province's post-secondary institutions. And we definitely see that in today's attendees coming from colleges and universities. We can drop a link if you would like to learn more about VLS, especially our reference team has a lot of really incredible reports if you want to understand the full scope of where all of that investment went to, and actually the full look at what so many of your teams have done. So we have 2 sessions today. I am going to hand it right over to our first team. Our first session is called Equipping and Empowering Graduate Students with Professional and Lifelong Learning Skills in Online Course. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Let me just share my screen here to get started. All right. Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. I'm joining you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin people. And we're delighted to have this opportunity to share this open, adaptable, and modular course with you. And we're also really proud of the team that has come together to create this resource. So we're a team from 4 different institutions. So the University of Windsor, Carleton University, UBC, Okanagan, and the University of Ottawa. And we come from a number of different disciplines. We have a number of different roles and experiences. And in terms of roles, we range from undergraduate students all the way through to senior academic leaders. And we've just really been valued all the different perspectives that has brought as we've developed the project. And we've also really depended on the expertise of others as we've built this. So for example, the University of Ottawa's Teaching and Learning Support Service for graphic design, instructional design, production work, as well as translation services from Valérie Lavoie, professional translator. So with me today, amongst our big team, we have Connor Bourgonje, who is a PhD student at the University of Ottawa in chemistry. And we also have Isabelle Barrette-Ng, who's a professor and department head of integrative biology at the University of Windsor. And so to start us off, Isabelle, let me pass things over to you to describe the project to us.
Sure. Thanks, Alison. So I can share that I'm joining here from Windsor, which is on the traditional territory of the Three Fires Confederacy, and excited to be here. So we wanted to share with you a little bit our goals for the project. Alison, could you advance to the next slide? A little bit of our goals for this project. What we're finding is that in our current context, in our rapidly changing world, our students have to be able to develop adaptable learning, lifelong strategies that include professional skills, that include resiliency skills. However, what we're finding is that most of our students spend a lot of time in formal education without actually being explicitly taught these skills. So skills like metacognition, smart goal setting, project management. And these issues get further compounded when we get into research environments in graduate school, where highly qualified personnel, which we're going to be referring to as HQP, are now expected to engage in a lot of independent learning and a lot of independent work. So they essentially becomes this hidden or implicit curriculum in graduate school where HQP are expected to have these skills without having been explicitly taught these skills or have had the chance to actually practice and grow their skills. So what we're finding is that this really widens equity gaps. So we've got students who are fortunate enough to be living with support, who excel in these areas. And we've got students who fall further behind because they don't have the support systems. They don't have what they need in their environment to thrive, to develop these skills and continue on into their chosen career paths. So we came together as a group of interdisciplinary members coming together from different lived experiences to try to see how can we come up with a course, a set of modules that would help graduate students, help HQP develop these lifelong learning skills in ways that enhance their work, in ways that are not taking away from the work that they're doing, but they're actually complementary. I'll take to the next slide. So in terms of our goals, the course that we have developed and we're going to be sharing with you today is a step in transforming the culture of graduate school into an experience that nourishes the growth and development of all students, regardless of career goals, but also regardless of discipline. So we're talking about HQP in all disciplinary areas. We're addressing some of those training gaps that I just talked about, this implicit or hidden curriculum, but also ad hoc approaches that have been identified by HQP, employers, and PI as missing within the training environment that they have seen or that they have lived through. So our main goal is really to equip and empower HQP to be successful, to provide the skills and the training environment, the place that to feel safe in learning, to admit, you know what, I'm not comfortable with this particular skill. Let me ask questions. Let me read a little bit more about it. Let me practice the skills by talking with someone about that so that we set up the environment that really helps our learners thrive. So we really are looking at how can we do this through this online course to set up our HQP for success, really looking at any career path that they choose or that they select. Our goal in the course was to develop training resources in 5 key areas to empower HQP for success. So we looked at metacognition, project management, resilience, mentorship, and difficult conversations. Get the next slide, please. So in terms of our design principles, we wanted to have a course that would be scalable, that would be available to use by HQP in any institution, in any discipline. And we really wanted to be mindful of not creating a course that was an add-on, that felt to HQP that this was something else that they had to juggle, that they had to do on top of everything else that they were doing. We wanted to really be very careful in terms of the design of the modules so that they would be accessible, that HQP could tackle them, could engage with them at a time that works for them. that it would give them the opportunity to identify the learning needs that they have and engage with the modules that best meets their own learning needs. So in terms of really engaging with our design, we wanted to ensure that the course would be useful for HQP, again, in any disciplinary field, but also at any stage of graduate school. So as a team, what we did is we engaged with HQP as authentic partners from day one of our design sprint. So we really wanted to turn to them and ask them, what are your needs? What are the things that would make your success better, more achievable in graduate school? What are the skills that you feel you need to learn more about? And how would you like to learn about these different skills within this particular module? So as an interdisciplinary team, we brought different perspectives, also different lived experiences. We worked and met online throughout the entire design of the course to make this course possible. Really treasuring principles of EDI, looking at UDL, looking at AODA, but also ensuring that the course would be available in both French and English as well. Pass it back on to my colleagues.
Connor.
Thanks. So the course structure consists of 5 distinct modules that Isabelle touched on, and we'll go into more detail in the next slides. Many of these modules were initially offered across our different institutions as individual courses, workshops, and resources to help students. And the goal of this is to combine all of these into one place for a well-rounded experience for kind of teaching students these soft skills, with the intention of being that the students will guide themselves through the modules using what we've currently have it hosted on, which is Brightspace or D2L, which is a fairly accessible format for most institutions. Each module is expected to take 4 to 6 hours to complete. The students can do it really in any order they want. There isn't any kind of flow, so they can really address the modules that really interest the students along the way. These modules consist of course, lots of information, but we really focused on interactive learning when designing this course. That means there's a lot of quizzes. We have podcast episodes, which a lot of people really love that format nowadays. We have self-reflections as well as group reflections where students can share their thoughts in a Slack space. We have journal entries, so students can actually take these skills with them once they're done the course. And we actually even have real world challenges where we ask the students to kind of push the boundaries in their own environments to really practice these skills and share them with their colleagues as well. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in the introduction, we start with an Indigenous affirmation, thinking about also the territories on which our different institutions are located, welcoming the students into the space and really explicitly creating that safe space and acknowledging that working through ideas like this can bring discomfort, but should still be safe. So really being explicit about that idea that that it is a place to challenge and to go further and really to test our own boundaries, but in a place where it is okay to do that, and with explicit permission, making it okay for people to step away if and as they need to. And so we start by asking those taking the course to reflect on their values, what's really important to them, and then to think about those values and to use those to first learn about what SMART goals are, and then to write some SMART goals for themselves. Then to think about, as they're entering perhaps grad school or wherever they are in grad school, even if they're postdoctoral researchers, thinking about what they already know, what they don't know, what they might want or need to know, and encouraging conversations with course professors or their supervisors if those expectations and those needs aren't clear yet, to already start those conversations. And then to get into that next part of metacognition around the strategizing for the learning. So very early in this introductory part, and it's something that we go deeper in another module. So Connor, back to you.
Yeah, so these are the 5 modules that we have in this course. Mentorship, navigating difficult conversations, project management, strategic learning, and academic resilience. These particular topics stood out as things that students feel unprepared when they leave grad school to address in their workplaces, or if they move on to postdocs. And we'll start with Alison talking about the strategic learning module.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just before we jump into that, I have to brag about the amazing grad students that we have on the project, because they just created a video to help, talk about what it's like to start graduate school and what they wish they had known, and some recommendations about maybe which modules they would want to start with. So it's just so amazing to hear from the people like living it right now and coming from those different experiences. So I'm just so thrilled at what I'm just so grateful, really, of the people we've been able to work with on this project. So with that, in terms of the strategic learning module, we started with this idea that we can spend years and sometimes decades in these formal learning environments without learning how learning works, or how to do it strategically or effectively. So we start out asking those taking the course to think about, to write down for themselves, how do you think learning works? What would you say the process is? And then we go into some of the research on learning, including some myths. And then we come back, like we did in the introduction, but going deeper into their values and goals, getting into the idea of self-regulated learning, going deeper into ideas of metacognition, and really thinking about how those different pieces will tie together authentically for what they're doing right now in their studies, whether it's course-based, whether it's in a research lab, and then thinking, okay, so we've got values, here are the goals that come from those values, here are some of the strategies, we know our starting point. Now, how do we get more strategic? So how do we start to think about building relationships, identifying supports that we need to be successful? How do we actually then get into the nitty-gritty of scheduling when all of that's going to happen? And then into building some of the skills that support that. So the idea of failure, the idea of curiosity and what it means to be curious and to feel okay and vulnerable about asking questions like, I really don't know how that works. I think I should, for all that word should is never, can't think of any moment when a should serves a good purpose, but I want to learn that. I'm curious about that. How can I learn more about that? So building some of those skills, as well as the idea of our mindset, and our mindfulness of being able to be in the moment that we're in. And then we get practical. If you've got an exam coming up, what are some of the practical research-based strategies that can help you really learn effectively for those moments? So that's what we're looking to do in the strategic learning module. And there's lots of connections to other modules as we go: mentorship, navigating difficult conversations, project management, and the others. So in the project management module here, we're, with students who are managing any different kind of project. So we start out really, what is project management? What qualifies as a project? How do you plan a project? What kind of preparation? What kind of risk management? How do you go into scheduling the project itself? And how does that tie in with your own personal scheduling? Ideas of a project diary and closing out a project. If I maybe touch into a couple of things that Connor mentioned earlier about some of the activities we have, it was really important to us to have interactive content that's also accessible. So this is one graphic, for example, that is interactive, that as they click on the different parts, different explanations appear. We also have, as Connor mentioned, different videos and podcasts that people can use. And we also wanted authentic activities. So the idea that as we're trying to make activities that are already relevant to HQP's situation and environment, but also then the homework or the practice activities that we have for them to go out into what they're actually doing, and work on it in an authentic, real life, in the moment kind of way. So this would be one example where they would practice with a node, what's known as a node and network diagram, a way of doing some project management planning, and then to do it with our activity and then go out and do it with their own kind of project. Okay, so let me pass things over to Isabelle to talk about mentorship.
Thanks, Alison. So the mentorship module really touches on a lot of the modules that Alison just described, and Connor also described at the beginning of the talk too. In terms of the mentorship, when we talked with our HQP partners, it was really interesting to see their perspectives on their needs to, first define what does an effective mentorship look like? What are the expectations surrounding effective mentorship? How do you even engage in a mentorship relationship? And what does it look like? What can I expect to get out of that particular mentorship relationship? So within that module, we wanted to implement a lot of self-reflexive activities to really allow HQPs to think about, what does mentorship mean to them? What are they seeking out of a mentorship relationship? What are their expectations from a mentor? What about them stepping up into the role of a mentor? What does that look like? So what we wanted to do is spend a bit of time defining what effective mentorship looks like in different contexts, bearing in mind that one person may not find all the answers, all the knowledge that they're seeking in one mentor, so that we're seeing lots of mentees have multiple mentors, multiple conversations to meet the needs that they are trying to, or meet the knowledge they're trying to seek. So we wanted to give a chance to HQP to explore different mentorship models that would best meet their needs, including Indigenous and non-Indigenous models of mentorship. So really being important to us to kind of stretch the thinking about what mentorship can look like and how you can engage with mentors and mentees within your own context and to meet your needs. So we want to also provide an overview of different evidence-based strategies that you can use to initiate a mentorship relationship. And that's really where a lot of our HQP express some anxiety. How do you approach someone? How do you engage in a mentorship relationship? How do you develop that relationship? How do you sustain it? Looking at strategies to ensure that that relationship is equitable, that it's ethical, that it's sustainable. Bearing in mind that when you're entering into those mentorship relationships, you're looking at something that is a relationship that will benefit both the mentor and the mentee. So how can we engage in those conversations to ensure that both people will actually learn from each other, get some positive impacts from that particular relationships? We also wanted to explore with our HQP different strategies that can be used to address changing roles. So if we look at an HQP, they may start with a mentorship relationship at the very start of their graduate career, but as they move through their graduate program, they may now be called to become a mentor. So what does that transition look like? Other relationships may end because the two parties have explored their needs, have met a certain need, and that mentoring relationship may no longer need it. So how do you end that relationship? How do you maybe sustain other relationships? So there's those conversations that are important to have when we're thinking about those transition periods. We also wanted to make space for mentors and mentees to reflect on their readiness to be mentored or to become a mentor. What does that look like? What kinds of expectations are present with those mentorship relationships? Well, we also wanted to, as a last objective, really ensure that we were identifying how mentorship supports intersections of academic, disciplinary, and personal social cultural identity development, so that you can enter mentorship relationships with a lot of different goals. And those goals are personal, but they're really important to be shared, so that when you're entering into those relationships, you have those conversations that can really clarify expectations and really ensure that both mentor and mentees are having a positive experience through that relationship and are learning from one another throughout that particular experience as well. Turning it back to my colleagues.
Great. The next topic is navigating difficult conversations. This represents actually something that graduate students really struggle with, which is how to hold your own in a conversation, particularly in the setting of academics. Grad students are often on the wrong end of the power dynamic. And so a lot of students report feeling a lot of anxiety when talking to the professor, talking to admin, requesting things that are totally within their rights. And so we felt this was a super important module to include. And the structure of it basically just goes through a conversation. You start by understanding yourself. Before you go into a conversation, obviously, everything starts with the participants. And if you start a conversation in good faith, then that really improves the chances that a conversation is going to be successful. Moving on to planning the conversation, how we engage in the conversation, which includes things like how to level the playing field, how to maintain a healthy conversation when things get maybe antagonistic, how to follow up after the conversation, including internally and externally, managing your own feelings and managing the feelings of others. And we end it with navigating negotiations. Negotiations is kind of a case study that kind of brings this whole module together, but it's a super important one because negotiations are one of the areas where I find students, and not just students, but employees at companies really struggle with things like asking for a raise, talking to your professor about your expectations when you're going to graduate in science, talking about authorship and contributions on academic publications. These are all super intimidating conversations to engage in. And this module really hopes to equip students with the skills that they don't feel so isolated and alone when they go into a conversation like this. Next slide, please, Alison.
And we've just got, I think, a couple of minutes left. So maybe 2 or 3 sentences per slide if we can.
For sure.
There we go.
Next is resilience. Resilience kind of, it goes over how to handle the stress of grad school, which I think people really understand. Starting with a scientific approach and moving through these modules to give you a lot of skills and perspective so that you can practice resilience in the real world. Next slide, please. Finally, we have our user testing. We're in the pre-screening phase of our user testing, so we're collecting data on people that are going to be taking these courses. One really interesting thing I wanted to touch on was we see here which modules people really were interested in. We see that navigating difficult conversations and project managements by far were the most popular topics that people wanted to take before having taken the module, where learning was last place, which we think reflects something that actually Mary addressed in the chat, which is that people learn a lot in grad school. However, a lot of people show up thinking they know everything already, which is something that I think makes this strategic learning module even more important. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in terms of our next steps, we're going to be taking the feedback, and it's the grad students yet again who have taken the lead on all of our user testing. So incorporating that feedback, including, I'm already seeing some suggestions in the chat. So thank you for these. Our translation to French is happening right now, and then we get to offer the course and think about how we see this not just as this particular year of funding, but this is really an ongoing project for us. So how we then take it to the next steps in terms of our project evaluation and our knowledge mobilization. So with that, I think we can wrap up this part of the presentation. And again, we welcome any feedback or questions.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate learning all of this together. I absolutely just took a screenshot and sent it to a friend who is completing their PhD and was like, this is something that immediately reminded of things we talked about in your experience. I was like, you should know about this OER.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, folks, we have some time for some questions. What we planned is that every presenter has 20 minutes. So we have a little bit of time if anybody has any questions at this point. If you want some time to digest it, please know that we'll have time for questions later. And I don't know if maybe the project team will be open to contact at all. If so, please do share it in the chat. I'm sure folks might have some questions. And of course, the resource is available for download in the open library if you want to just go ahead and start discovering it right now. Just giving folks a minute, and also at the same time, I'll just prompt our second presenters to get their computer set up ready, because we'll switch over to them in a moment. In the meantime, I have a really specific question because I was very curious when I heard, I believe Connor mentioned that there is a Slack channel. Does that mean that in a sense it's with multiple institutions, does that mean that there is a single Slack channel where all folks who are engaging with this course get access to? Is that how that works?
Connor, you want to take that one? You want me to?
I think, I mean, that end of things, I think maybe Alison, you'd know more about.
Yeah, sure. So we're playing with different things right now, but where we're at the moment is that, yes, we do have a Slack space created. And so we have different activities where we invite people to, reflect on, describe how you think learning works and go post it in the Slack channel. You can reflect and build on what somebody else has said. So for each of the different modules, there's a channel created, plus the typical ones like a general and a random. So the idea is that, people are going to be taking this either independently or within a course at their institution. But wouldn't it be great if those who are taking it across institutions could collaborate and build community, and that we could get something even greater and even more connections than simply the course material itself. So that was something that we've been talking about a lot, is how do we continue to build community within this context?
And if I can add to that too, this was one of the needs our HQP identified, is an ability to talk with one another across different institutions and share experiences, was something that came up quite early on in our design process as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that. I think at this time, I'm going to move over to our second presenters. And if anybody has any questions that they would like the first team to address, do drop them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on everything. Amazing. Why don't you take it away?
Awesome. Everyone can hear me okay? Awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. Well, hi, everyone. Good morning. Just getting my notes up here. Lanique was so fast with the slide share there. So my name's Carrie Proctor. I'm joined by Lanique Wilson and Jessica Worster, all of us from the Arts and Science Internship Program, ASIP for short, at the University of Toronto. And we're on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. We're excited to briefly share with you 2 OERs that we created and launched this year for our undergraduate co-op student community. We have a lot packed in to the next 20 minutes. So buckle in and feel free to ask questions in the chat as well as we go through. Before we get started, though, we'd love to get a very quick sense of who is in the room. And we have a very simple poll that I was hoping the coordinators could launch for us.
Just give me 1 second.
Sure. Thank you. It came fast.
Here we go. I launched the poll. Folks should be seeing that. Just a quick indicator to let us understand about your interests here. We're getting responses coming in. Amazing. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mary.
Give folks a couple minutes, and then I'll share with everyone verbally. Is that all right?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Perfect. Amazing.
Seems
Thank
like
you.
a pretty even split, actually.
Oh, yeah, quite interesting. I think today's sessions either worked out well for sort of a common through line in our sessions.
Yeah, 100%. Okay.
Looks like we've got slightly more interest in learning new tips and tricks for e-module development.
Perfect. Yeah, slightly more, 59% over 41%. Okay, perfect. Thank you. That just helps us get a bit of a sense of who's in the room. And we'll keep that in mind as we go through the next pieces of the presentation. And then I also have a couple of links I can also drop in the chat. In addition to the open library link, we have some basically previews of our OER. So I'll drop those and you can click and go into Canvas and look at what we've made live. So now I will pass it over to Jess to take us through just kind of an overview, an introduction of what we have to share.
Thanks so much, Carrie. Yeah, we're gonna tell you a little bit about the course structure. Oh, just to introduce myself, I'm Jessica Worster. As Carrie mentioned, we are student learning and professional development coordinators with the student learning and professional development team within ASIP. And we were the folks who designed these 2 OERs along with some colleagues and partners who will get shouted out later in the presentation in their sort of respective sections. And these modules were designed to support students in developing critical workplace skills in ideation, planning, and workplace innovation. And I actually think the content has some interesting overlap with the previous module that was discussed, especially around the kind of planning skills. So we're prepping undergrads, and then perhaps our students will take some of those skills to the graduate level and interact with the OERs that our colleagues have developed. So this course was originally developed over 2 semesters following 2 earlier professional development courses that we offer to students in second year. And throughout these modules, we'll sort of informally refer to course content as PD3 for the first semester and PD4 as the second semester. PD1 and 2 are the previous courses, and PD stands for professional development if you hear us use that acronym. Students go through 11 skill building modules, and central to this learning experience are the concepts of holistic sustainability, automation, and teamwork. So throughout this year-long process, students worked together in groups to solve an industry partner challenge, which we'll discuss in more depth in the next slide. And we're giving students an immediate opportunity to apply their new learning to a tangible outcome. The skill building modules are designed to be asynchronous, and the learning is also complemented with synchronous sessions that are held either in person or online. And the sync sessions provide dedicated time for students to work together in groups to ideate and manage the course deliverables. So each of the assignments builds upon one another and culminates in a final assessment, which is the formal written proposal. And then students also had the opportunity to pitch their ideas in a poster presentation to peers and guest judges, which occurred at the end of March. It was really exciting to see the culmination of all their work in that format. So to complement the ideation and planning skills developed throughout the full academic year course, we also developed an additional OER on workplace innovation skills for employment success. This module will be completed by students while they're on their work terms following the completion of PD4. And the module focuses on the skills of workplace innovation to benefit both students and the organizations that they're working for. As the COVID-19 pandemic has proven, and in line with the Government of Canada's innovation plan, the future is highly uncertain. And our role as educators in supporting future-ready graduates is to ensure that they have the innovation skills to embrace global changes, as stated in that innovation plan. So, although workplace innovation skills for employment success can be used as a standalone module, it does draw from and refer to many of the skills covered in the previous course. So they really complement each other well, building especially on the design thinking skills and skills related to developing a proposal. And I'm going to hand things back over to Carrie to talk a little bit more about our project partners and then the modules and the learning outcomes in more detail.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. So we support students across very different programs in ASIP, from computer science to book and media studies to pharmacology and toxicology. So we really run across the gambit, and we needed both a project topic and a project partner that would be relevant to all students from all of these different angles. So IBM is known as an expert in design thinking, which is one tool for ideation. And we approached them about this project, and they enthusiastically agreed to collaborate and act as mentors to our students, which was great news for us. Through many conversations with IBM, we decided on the topic of automation and its widespread impact, both positive and negative. And this theme would help students prepare for the labor market with a better understanding of how automation is impacting across sectors and how it might or will influence their own future careers and their own job sites and work experiences. Now, further to this, we began exploring the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, or the SDGs, as a broad, accessible, and interdisciplinary access point for students of all backgrounds to approach the challenge. The SDGs allow students to explore their passions, interests, and values. And through this, we really wanted to encourage students to think about their careers beyond a job description or a salary, to really think about what drives them and what really motivates them in their careers and in their work. We want students to feel empowered that they can really make a difference in their work. So this brought us to the final challenge question that you can see here on the slide. How can automation advance the Sustainable Development Goals as set out by the UN? And students were invited to approach this challenge from any angle. Their topics could be related to their academic disciplines or not. Potential solutions could be training programs, awareness campaigns, apps, artificial intelligence tools, governmental programs, really anything. We wanted students to get creative about it. So now if we go to the next slide, I can do a quick overview of these are the different skill modules that really form the core components of the year-long course of the first OER. So our goal is to help students develop skills that are in demand by employers, really building off of what Jess was saying. A guiding idea in our development is the quote you see here on the screen, again, from the Government of Canada's Innovation Plan. As technologies become commodities that are widely available to everyone, the only competitive advantage for countries and businesses is the distinctive talent and creativity of their people. So these modules introduce both ideation and implementation skills that would serve students both now, immediately, as they work on this challenge, and in their future careers as they enter their co-op placements and the labor market. In each module, as Jess alluded to earlier, students complete deliverables that allows them to apply and use these new skills immediately in tangible outcomes. And these deliverables all contributed to their final idea, to the challenge introduced in the previous slide. This is all I'm going to say about the skill modules for now, just because we have such a limited amount of time and so much to cover. But I definitely invite you to explore the OERs and check out these module topics on your own. Those links that I dropped in the chat should give you a live preview of what those look like. And now I'll pass it back over to Jess for a sneak peek at the other OER that builds off of this curriculum.
Thanks, Carrie. So to further enhance students' innovation capability following those first ideation and planning skills modules, we collaborated with folks from Workplace Innovation Canada and Nipissing University, and I want to acknowledge Tom Carey and Isabelle Barrette-Ng, who are here today in this session for their amazing work collaborating with us. So we adapted an existing OER on workplace innovation that Tom and Anahita had developed to support our students during their subsequent work terms, as Carrie had mentioned. This module focuses specifically on organizational practices that allow employees at every level, including our students who are quite junior as co-op students, who are mostly in following their second or third year of university. So it's a way for them to develop their skills, knowledge, experience, and competencies to the fullest, while also enhancing workplace performance, engagement, and their overall well-being. And you can see the specific sort of concepts we talked about there in the course structure on the slide. We did introduce key terms and concepts for employee-led workplace innovation and illustrate them through a really intensive case studies, videos, and online resources that we designed to make sure they were super relevant, tailored to our student audience. The skills that students develop, such as how to engage in workplace innovation and job crafting, are going to really readily transfer to work domains beyond the course and their work terms. So we're hoping these are skills they'll be able to draw on throughout their future careers. And now I'm going to hand things over to Lanique Wilson, who's going to talk a bit about course usability and experience features, give you a bit of a demo.
Hi, everyone. I have the esteemed pleasure of talking a little bit about some of the technologies and key features that we use in order to develop these OERs for you. My name is Lanique Wilson. I go by she/her pronouns, and also I am one of the student learning and professional development coordinators with the Arts and Science Internship Program. So some key features of the course. And before I go into that, I really want to acknowledge some amazing folks that really helped to collaborate and develop these key features. Douglas Orme and David Terstel, who are our amazing education and collaborative technology specialists. Also Katarzyna Kochani, who's our multimedia developer, who really helped us put this together and develop some features that were really interactive and help students navigate through the courses and the content in such a cool and fun way. So I'm really excited to show you this right now. So one of the key features that really helped us make the course and really pull it together was H5P. And H5P is an online plugin that enables users to create interactive content, such as images with hotspot text, drag and drop activities, and many more. You can embed this on online pages that support H5P plugins, and this could be online learning management systems like Canvas, or as we refer to it, Quarkus. One of the H5P assets that we created is called our lesson or module roadmap, which you can see here. It's these colorful arrows that help students figure out where they are in the course and also where they're going to go in the course. And it really helps kind of set some context for them as well. Another key feature is our personas. And this is an image of Lolinda here, is the image of the character in the blue shirt. Lolinda is one of our personas, and these are characters created by the ASIP staff used as discipline-specific examples throughout the modules. Each fictional individual has their own story, their own experiences, their own job search activities, their own values and interests and skills. And it really helps bring to life some of the content and puts it in the position of a student. So we also introduce these in PD1 and PD2, which are the courses that were before PD3 and 4, which we're referring to now. And their stories continue to evolve and move along with students. So it's really cool to use them and have them embedded. Another H5P feature that we embedded was call out boxes. And the call out boxes help us to break up the content and make the content easy to navigate in a visually appealing way. An example of this was our reflection call out boxes that invited students to think about how the module content applies to their personal and their academic, as well as their professional lives. We also have a call out box for taking a break. So there's a call out box we have that invites students to take a break at that point, at a midpoint through the content. Finally, there are other key features of module, for instance, like our estimated time to complete, which helps students manage their time and their pace as they navigate through the modules. But like Carrie mentioned, we have some links in the chat, and I really encourage folks, if they have an opportunity, to kind of look through the content and also see how the flow works, because this doesn't do justice here on the page, but definitely seeing it in action will help give a sense of what the flow is like. Another really, really excited project that was almost within this larger project that we had was our industry insights. So we knew that it would be really important to enhance the ASIP curriculum by including industry-specific insights from both working professionals as well as experienced ASIP students in our modules. So this included their unique experiences in their field of interest or their field of expertise, to help guide and tailor the content and curriculum for students. So often they came in the form of examples, stories, anecdotes, and they're very specific to the content that the students were navigating through to help also bring it to life. We have uploaded the raw data for the industry insights as well that you can repurpose for your own content. And it doesn't only include what we have on the pages. So if you want to navigate through that and apply some of the insights in places that are contextually specific to students, if you'd like to adapt this content, there's lots of insights there, and they're really, really great ones as well. Alrighty, so without further ado, I'm going to show you just a few of some of the module features. Honestly, there's so many more, but we're just going to talk about or share a couple of them that we really want to highlight. Excuse me while I get to my first page here. Alrighty, so this is the hotspot interaction that I spoke about earlier. That is our module roadmap. As you can see, each of them, there's like an arrow that kind of guides students through each of the positions in the course. Students will also see where they are currently. And by clicking on the interaction, they can reveal more text about what is going to be covered in that specific part. Alrighty. So the next one I'm going to show you today is a quiz feature. So after students have gotten through a certain point in the course, they can navigate through a quiz, and it tells them if they're correct or incorrect. I was incorrect. I should know this one. And they can check their answers as well. So this is really great, and they can always retry each of their quizzes. Next, I'm going to show you a drag and drop. So this is a really adorable one, I think. So students can drag responses into a specific part of an image that correlates to the answer, and check their answers. And I'll tell them if they were correct or incorrect. And again, they can retry if they'd like. Finally, you've got a flip card interaction, where by turning the card over, they can reveal more text. They can go to the next card, turn it over, reveal some more text. And we really use this in multiple different ways. And that is our demo for now. What I will say is for each of the interactions, there were several ways that you can use each of them. So while I showed you a couple of examples here, each of them were adapted in different ways. So a hotspot image could be used in several different modalities and ways as well. There's also many different types of H5P interactions as well. So again, please, I encourage you to go through the content. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Carrie to talk about what's next.
Awesome. Thanks, Lanique. Yeah, it's so fun to see everything live like this. And Doug just dropped a fantastic comment in the chat about some of our process in developing the H5P interactions and how we really tried to make sure that the pedagogy was first and foremost, and should be the H5P should be serving the pedagogy, which was so true. And now I'm actually, this segues perfectly into the assessment pieces that I want to share with you. If you go to the next slide there, Lanique. So there's a lot on here and we're probably short on time, so I'm going to breeze through this pretty quickly, but I'm really happy to share that you can see our numbers are quite high. Students really liked the H5P, the interactive dynamic Quarkus environment, the Canvas environment. Let me hop over to my slides. Yeah, people responded favorably. 75% agreed they had a good understanding of the key skill themes. 85% agreed that the modules were easy to navigate. Shout out to our roadmap. 73% of students found the interactions easy to understand and effective for their learning. And 78% of students agreed that they preferred the new format, this new dynamic, engaging format. So honestly, we're just so happy to see this data come in. And again, as a reminder, we actually we developed this over the course of the year and we piloted all of this over the course of the year as well. So this is kind of our early insights from our pilot program. Workplace innovation, we are launching next week. And so we don't yet have data on that, but we are very excited to share that maybe in a future presentation with VLS. So we will contact students again after they complete their second work term, which happens after the conclusion of these courses. And many of them are starting those courses or those work terms now. So we'd like to see if they can better understand the connection and applicability of the skills we've highlighted in our courses and how it benefits them with more on-site experience under their belt. So we'll then share their insights back to the next cohort of students to help them better understand the connection between what they're learning and how it will benefit them and why it all matters. So of course, we're excited to improve these numbers next year, and a big part of that will be focusing on the qualitative comments the students submitted. Like I said, the constructive feedback was not about the H5P or the Quarkus environment, which was really great, but students were less than enthusiastic about the workload and the group work. Going into fall 23, we're exploring the idea of reducing writing assignments to incorporate other modalities and embedding more strategic group work time, particularly at the start of the term. And we hope that by making the learning experience simpler with a reduced workload and less interpersonal conflict, we anticipate that the satisfaction will improve. So we are going to be relaunching the whole program again, starting in fall 23. And with that, I'll pass it back over. Oh, and you can see here a quote from a student from one of our surveys as well. So students really liked it. And with that, I'll pass it back over to Jess to talk about adapting this content.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, just a final note for anyone who is interested in adapting this full content. We did intentionally design the course in a modular way to enable its reusability, both for an external audience and for ourselves. So for the ideation and planning skills for employment success module, there is some ASIP specific content, which we intentionally left in the published courses. And the purpose of this was just to show potential adopters how we personalize the content for our own audiences. Others could adapt the material accordingly to reflect their context. So for example, in each module, one of our course instructors provides a brief introduction and overview of the module content. It's a video recording, and we highly suggest that you recreate those introductory videos with your own course instructors, or you could just replace the video with text on the module page, and we do have that available as a video transcript. But that's an easy way to personalize. Other ASIP content, ASIP specific content was removed altogether. For instance, information on how to access our job boards or book an appointment with our team. That kind of specific detail are areas where you can easily add relevant context for your own context as you adapt. And another area for adaptation is to work with other industry partners. And this is built in a very modular way as we also potentially look at working with other partners. So in this iteration, as Carrie mentioned, we partnered with IBM and developed an overarching course project related to automation, to which all the assignments contribute. And for future iterations of the course, we'll branch out to work with other industry partners and develop additional challenge questions. With new partners, we would substitute modules about IBM and automation to the new partner and their project topic. For example, if we were to work on a local food sustainability nonprofit organization, one module would introduce that partner organization, and the second module would provide the necessary context about food sustainability. So those are very easily interchangeable modules. And the lens of the UN Sustainable Development Goals to address the problem and the progression through the ideation and planning skills development modules and assignments would remain the same. And in the future, we're hoping to run the course simultaneously with multiple industry partners so that we can better align the overarching course project with the diverse interests and backgrounds of our students. The individual modules are also adaptable. So the skills development modules are standalone, can exist as a standalone format. You'd need to make some minor edits to remove things like embedded links and written references to earlier course content, and to remove the industry partner challenge aspect of the overall course. But you could easily take a module, for example, one or more of the project management modules, and deliver that independently. The workplace innovation for employment success module is a little bit different. It has 3 topical sections: introduction to workplace innovation, job crafting, and innovation adaptation. And although you could use any of those independently, we did feel like it was really critical for students to have a sufficient understanding of workplace innovation before sort of diving into job crafting and working to modify their own roles without that further full understanding of the workplace innovation context before they leverage that. So that one, it draws on previous module content, which I think could, again, in terms of embedded links, be removed. But we did really design the 3 pieces of this particular module, which is a bit shorter, to stand together. And on that note, I'm going to wrap things up. Looking at the time, we just have a couple minutes left for questions, but I encourage any folks who are interested in adapting any of this content for their own purposes to reach out to our team. We're happy to discuss, share our best practices and our learnings as we do this. And yeah, thanks so much for your time today, folks. Looking forward to any questions.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was really interesting and also really exciting to hear about this great project that the students got to do. I love this whole concept of like the automation. I can see how that must have been really exciting, especially this past year with everything that's been happening in the news about automation related activities in the world. I'd like to invite folks to share your questions in the chat or anywhere else. I noticed that Thomas has noted that Anahita and himself are open to discussing adaptations of workplace innovation modules, which is the basis for one of the modules today. That's something really great aspects of working with OER. The items are licensed. You can see the license on the materials as well as the open library, so you know what you can do with it. And why reinvent the wheel when there's already great material out there that can suit you, you know? One of the aspects of working with OER that's like, I think, really rewarding for educators and staff. If you have any questions, we're right on time, so I am conscious that maybe folks have to get running. But if you have any questions, folks had left their emails, and I'm really excited that we got to hear about these. One of the things I personally really took away from it is the fact that there are pieces in each of these OER that can fit all sorts of programs, all sorts of approaches. There's a lot of adaptability that I definitely am hearing. Oh, amazing. We're seeing that we're getting some emails in the chat, and it looks like some folks may have some specific questions about H5P. Then I'm going to take a moment just to shout out that the Open Library does have beginner workshops available. Start in so the rest of this month. We have beginners module sessions and workshops to get you settled. If you can't make it to something else, then maybe perhaps your own institution is hosting. We do also make recordings available if you want to check it out later. And we're looking forward to more ways that we can support you in your OER journey. All right, folks, thanks so much. I'm going to say bye to everyone now. And we hope to see you again at any one of our other sessions for VLS Open House that are intriguing to you. Hope you were inspired. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.